welcome everyone to our October ULCT board meeting. We're going to do a few administrative items while we just see if anyone who's stuck in traffic is able to join so we can get most of our board online. So if we start with our administrative items, let's do review and approval of the minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review our minutes? And if so, I'd love to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion, a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed to approving the minutes? Great, so our minutes are adopted. Cameron, do you want to talk about our board meeting schedule, or is that a Nick item?
Nick, take it away.
Okay, we did talk about this at our last meeting, and that's how we ended up here today at this time. We scheduled it. But we did not schedule our entire board meeting for this 2025-2026 board. Nothing has changed here. So it's a little easier to read for everyone. This is the official schedule. Once it is adopted, I will go ahead and post all of these dates to the public notice website. So we're talking about December 15th will be our next meeting. That is going to review our annual audit. January 21st, 2026, along with local officials day in the afternoon. March 23rd, that post-session meeting. April 22nd in St. George in conjunction with the mid-year conference.
Nick, will you just pause there for the new people on the board, just to explain what you mean by in conjunction with the conference?
In conjunction with the conference. So our mid-year conference is in St. George. So this will be held at the Dixie Center in the afternoon, the day before the conference really gets underway. So it'll be that Wednesday. We do have like a social, and we do have a board dinner that is associated with that. But then the conference gets going in earnest that Thursday morning. Then May 18th, we will have the consideration of our tentative budget. And then Monday, June 22nd, we will run into a kind of tradition here we're doing where we have the president host a meeting. So we will be doing that at Bountiful City Hall. Then August 17th, September 21st, and a year of yesterday will be October 26th, that Monday. And that will be, or is that a Tuesday? I'll have to double check the day on that, but it will be the day before our annual convention, which will be in Salt Lake City, October 27th through the 28th. We had to switch up the dates there, but that's probably a Tuesday, right?
26th is a Monday.
Is a Monday. Okay, so the conference is the 20th. Is a
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, that's what was throwing me off there. So we would just entertain a motion to officially accept this schedule, and then we'll get it up on the public notice website.
And before, before we take that motion, Nick mentioned the dates of the annual convention. We're still at the Salt Palace. Our contract with the Salt Palace expires in 2026, and there's going to be a massive renovation of the Salt Palace after 2026. So a question that we will need to discuss as a board, not today, but we will need to discuss as a board, is what comes next. And as you've noticed over the last few years since we moved from the Sheraton to the Salt Palace has bounced us around on different dates because we're just not big enough to commandeer the exact date that we want. Whereas at the Dixie Center, we can say we want this date, and they hold those dates for us every year. So that'll be a conversation, not for today, but at future board meetings about post 2026. But for now, as we approve this schedule, I just wanted to give people that context.
Okay, well.
And the board, per our constitution, does have to approve the location of the annual convention. That's why I bring it up.
Okay, so for 2026, we will for sure be at the convention center. 2027
Up
in the air. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the 25-26 board meeting schedule?
I make that motion.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of approving the meeting schedule, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have a meeting schedule. Hopefully you've all accepted Nick's calendar invite. Next, this is something we do for those that are new. At the beginning of each board meeting, there is an annual conflict of interest disclosure form for the new board. If you'll just, take it home with you and complete it and return it, unless you have anything that you need to disclose, today for our meeting.
Yes, we'll need a new conflict of interest disclosure for this board year from everyone. We have some hard copies here, if you'd like to fill that out. As in the follow-up email to this meeting, I'll also be sending out a fillable PDF that you'll be able just to type it in and send back. And then we just have those on file. And like President Bradshaw said, we just, at the beginning of every single meeting, we have it up there in case there's something on here that you particularly have a conflict of interest with.
Great. Okay, let's see, we're still, I think mine is Mayor Burton and,
Yeah, Amy Shumway, my partner, stuck in traffic trying to get here.
okay.
But we could still, if you want to do introductions.
Well, I almost don't want to do the orientation packet. Or the introductions until the whole day can.
Yep.
Get here and me. Okay, we got one more. What if we, hold on, let's jump over to the boards and commission, then we'll come back.
Great.
Okay. Okay, Nick,
Great.
boards and commissions, please.
The only boards and commissions update we have today is an internal board or committee, which is our audit committee. We adopted new financial policies and procedures last December. And as a part of that, and this was a practice we had before, we were required to have an audit committee. And you can see in your packet last year, that committee consisted of our treasurer as the chair, Murray Mayor Brett Hales. We also had Councilmember Bradshaw on there and Councilmember Mary Winch. This group meets just before the audit is brought to the full board to review that with our auditor. And then every 5 years, when we go to bid for a new auditor, that is the group that will review the various proposals that we receive. We have these folks on the committee still. We just want to throw that out there to anyone else who would like to volunteer to be on this committee. We do not have a date set for when they will meet with the auditor, but it will be before December 15th when the audit will be brought forward to the entire board. So we just wanted to put that out there. If anyone is interested in serving on this committee, we can add you to the list there. I don't need to know right now. Don't all jump at once, but if you are interested, go ahead and let me know, and we'll get you on that board.
I will say, having served on this committee, I think at least 2 times, this is fairly light duty. I know Mary has also served on this 2 times, 3 times?
Twice maybe.
Okay, so it's obviously something we need, but it's not a heavy and lengthy assignment. I think makes it fairly seamless and easy on all of us, so. If you've got some spare time, I'm sure you would love some additional new blood.
Great.
When do you need, what is your deadline for when you need some?
If you could let me know by the end of this week, that way we can just coordinate schedules, so we can send out a meeting invite with the auditor and have everyone there. So that would be great.
Okay. All right, we don't need any motion on that, correct?
No.
And then we've had a request, we have a couple people that, because, busy people, busy schedules, have a conflict at 10, and there has been a request to take our last item on the agenda, an update on homelessness, and move that up. Molly, would it like throw off your groove?
I mean, I am so used to going last. We're all kind of a bit, but I think I could. Happy to go now. So a couple of things we wanted to update folks on homelessness about. We have said for a long time that the tides are shifting and we don't exactly know how yet, and that continues to be true. There are some things that we have a more clear idea on, but we still don't have an absolute sense on the horizon of what is going to happen. So we know that the state is looking at opening up a 1,300 bed campus in Salt Lake. They've acquired the 15 acres to do that. They're looking at different funding sources, things like that. It is still unclear how that will fit into the system, how it will be funded. who will fund it? There's been a lot of ongoing conversations about expecting local governments to do more, but it is unclear what exactly more is and also what the municipal role is in all of this. To start off, I'll flag that for the past few years, starting about almost 3 years ago, the board adopted our principles when addressing homelessness policy. That is the kind of sandbox that we as staff use when we are negotiating on these policies. They were reaffirmed last year. So I would encourage everyone to take a look. We can always update these for the board's direction if it's changing. The policy world for this looked pretty different 3 years ago, so we may need to just change these more broadly. I think a lot of them are still quite applicable. But there are two things that I did want to flag for this group. One is that Wayne Niederhauser, who has been the state homelessness coordinator, and that's till he's stepping down this December. Nick Coleman will be filling his place in the interim. We don't know how long the interim will be. Whether that's, gonna make it all the way through session or if there will be someone new. But Wayne has been kind of the fixture in this space for quite a few years, and him leaving, I think, will pretty seismically change the way this policy landscape. So we need to be aware of that. Wayne has been really collaborative. He has been really solutions oriented, and I'm optimistic that Nick will continue to do so, and whoever becomes the more permanent position will continue to do so. But that is a huge unknown that is kind of entering the policy landscape. Additionally, after the president's executive order this summer, state leaders directed OHS and the Utah Homeless Services Board to figure out how they were going to comply with that and also put forward some policy recommendations. We've discussed this at LBC. Mayor Palmer, this is like the 5th time you've heard me talk about this, so thanks for your patience. But the big thing that I think we need to be aware of as cities is, again, they're looking for ongoing revenue streams. They are looking for better data integration with public safety. But the biggest thing that we're going to need to navigate is that is in the letter is that they are looking at extending winter response for at least 3 fiscal years, including figuring out how to fund it and a potential summer expansion. And it's not in the letter, but it was something that was up for discussion a lot, and I still anticipate will come back, is mitigation coming back into the policy landscape again and figuring out what that looks like. And to be fair, the homelessness beds in the state are about to expand by about 50% with the 1,300 bed campus coming online. So we are really working as staff to be proactive and engaged in this. We don't have enough details right now, I think, to really be engaged as a membership of like, this is how we negotiate, this is going to be our position. We're staying really involved. We're continuing to do so. Tomorrow, Cameron and I have a meeting with Wayne and Nick, and we're hoping to get some more details there. We'll continue to give you more details as we have them, and engage in those discussions. This is one of the big issues that we hold at a board level for a lot of discussion and deliberation on this in some of our positions. So as new board members, returning board members, be prepared that this is an issue that we're going to likely come to a lot with. If you want to get up to speed or need anything like that, I'm always happy to chat with you. But that's kind of where we are right now.
Well, do you get the sense that the Homeless Services Board and legislative policy leads on this issue are aligned, or do you think they're in different spots?
They are, it depends, I think. I think the biggest point of misalignment is funding. There is a lot of fatigue, I think, kind of across the board with this issue. And at the state level, I think there's a lot of fatigue of a sense of we've put a lot of money into this as a state. We aren't seeing the progress that we would like to see. And I think the biggest disconnect with the board is saying we need more funding to make some of these policies become realized, and we need a dedicated funding stream and some certainty to the resources that will be available for this policy issue. So I think that right now among like legislative leadership and the board is a big divergence. There are, I think, more stakeholders in this space than there have been before, and I would say less consensus. So there are some ideas that The campus will replace all of the shelters throughout Salt Lake County, and those will become like more permanent supportive housing. There are some ideas that it will supplement. There are some ideas that we should just pull all the funding from the current system and put it towards the campus. And I think right now it is very much a spaghetti on the wall situation, and so it's hard to know what through line to follow. And that's why we're staying engaged, and I'm sorry that I don't have like a concrete, this is what's happening, this is how we're engaging with it. But it depends.
Okay. And I see that we have Councilmember Dugan's hand up, and I know this is something he wanted to talk about before having a conflicting meeting, so. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate that. And thanks, Molly, for the update there. And funding, I understand is the big elephant there, but I also want to make sure from our principal standpoint, we also need to think about what our baseline living conditions are for these residents of this campus. I'm concerned that we're kind of putting that down as a low priority and a non-discussion item right now. But I'm really concerned about the living conditions. When we talk about, first of all, number of beds, congregate, non-congregate, what's the mix of that? I see this campus not being like a shelter where if every night you come in, come out, as more of I mean, the loose term of semi-permanent. So we really need to make sure that we drill down on what the quality of life and the conditions we're living in, congregate, non-congregate. The second thing would be access. This is in an area that's not easy to move in and out of, but people still should have the freedom and ability to go in and go out as they do right now in different services provided. It's not a place where the doors lock at 10 o'clock p.m. and you can't go out and you can't come in, or maybe there is in shelters, but there should be also discussion on that side of the house. There's also been some conversations more recently in the trib, but I also know from a prison, this area is heavily infested with the mosquitoes, and I'm concerned that we will set ourselves up for some not only quality of life but health and safety concerns by having this many people moving about. And they're moving about freely. They don't have to stay indoors the whole time like a prisoner. They should be able to move about freely. And you can't really do that a lot of times a year in that area because of the mosquitoes. So the health concerns, the legality of having that area that's, I would say in some regards, maybe inhospitable to such a large number of people. So we need to we need to have that addressed, and we need to have that conversation sooner than later, because that could cost us a lot of money in the end run. So those are my 3 areas that I'm concerned about, and what do we want to see as a principal going forward as a board. Thank you.
Do you think there's any need to change principles, or are you thinking we just need to be aware and watch, and as Molly reports back and gives us guidance, be prepared to change?
I think we need to prepare to change, but also maybe even establish some type of discussion on those ideas, because number 3 of the B is or number 2, number of beds. I think we should have an idea of what that mix should be, and we should probably have some thoughts on what that is. But the other side of the house, the quality of living, I think that should be somewhere in the principles ideas that this is not a prison. This is not a low barrier prison. This is a place to support people to transition out of homelessness. And so I think we really need to make sure that there's a principle there about the quality of life and the living conditions need to be addressed at some point. So aware of it, but also if it's not being raised, we need to raise it, because this will become an issue across the board.
And I guess if I could add something there, Councilman Dugan, thank you. One of the other big unknowns is there have been conversations, 1,300 beds, and then they've also discussed some type of expanded civil commitment in the state, as well as some type of mandatory detox and rehab program where you are not allowed to leave. So it is unclear right now if it would be 1,300 low barrier beds plus those facilities on this campus. If those facilities and beds would be included in that 1,300. Again, it's one of those big moving pieces that we just don't know, but we do know there is an appetite at the state level to be looking at involuntary civil commitment for those who are mentally unwell, and a mandatory detox facility for those who have behavioral health and addiction issues.
Yeah, wonderful. So those are, and I think they could try to lump them all together, but those are actually would be two separate facilities because they have two different requirements across the board, and funding streams and services provided, fencing, security, all those things are, those are two different places. And I think we need to make sure that there's a clear division on what is what.
So I have a suggestion.
Sure.
Since we know that Molly and Cameron have a meeting tomorrow, a lot hangs on who is Wayne Niederhauser's replacement. A
Yeah.
lot hangs on revenue projections that will be coming out first part of November. What if we make sure that we have this higher, or we'll just automatically move it up on our agenda for November? And for any additional updates, because it feels to me like we have some concerns, but we don't have enough actionable items to adjust the policy at this point, unless anyone feels differently.
Well, and this was the reason we put the principals back in. For those of you who are new on the board, the two former league boards have approved these principles, and this has really been our rules of engagement over the last 3 years. But admittedly, these rules of engagement, when the board first drafted them and approved them, did not contemplate the campus concept that is now in front of us. So that's where we wanted to make sure everybody knew, like, we've been waiting for this big systemic change. The systemic change is here, but we still don't necessarily know what it looks like. We will have more information tomorrow. So we'll still use these as our rules of engagement. And then Molly and I can come back to the board and say, based on where we think this is going, here's a couple of recommendations for you to consider. Now, the board won't meet until December 15th because November's a little screwy because of the NLC being here. And we decided canceled this is what we decided our last board meeting is we're not going to have a board meeting in November because we wanted board members to come to NLC and prioritize that. We do have LPC in November. So there will be opportunities to gather to do a follow-up on homelessness. And what we've done before is we've held like a pre-meeting before LPC or a post-meeting after LPC focused exclusively on homelessness. So there are all options we could have in November to circle back after tomorrow's meeting with Councilmember Dugan's feedback and just the other pieces that are now part of the puzzle but haven't been part of the puzzle.
So thank you, Cam and Kate. I appreciate that and I apologize. I wish I brought this up, 6 months or a year ago, but it seems like it just kind of got to my raised itself up to the radar and my concerns. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Dugan, I think this upcoming session will be the session of revenue streams, property tax in particular, which is why we're going to spend so much time on property tax today, and homelessness systemic changes. Like if I had to pick the two biggest issues that I think are going to be there, I'd say those two, which means housing drops to third. Think about that. Yeah. Perfect. Well, Councilmember, thanks for arranging the schedule to accommodate Councilmember Dugan's request there.
No problem. Let's see. It's still no update on.
She said she's still stuck in traffic.
Okay. Well, before we go too much further in the agenda, then let's go back up to,
We could do the budget report.
you want to do the budget? Okay. Nick, budget report.
Let's do the budget report. All right. So we are. Gotta figure out where I'm at in this packet now. We have the FY 2026 first quarter budget report here. For those who are new, we give the board a budget update every quarter of the fiscal year. And then we also have our audited financial statements that we do in December. And that's kind of the one of the financial roles that you play as a board in oversight of our and governance of our organization. So I'll just start running through the numbers here. By the end of Q1, we have collected just over 67.5% of our total revenue. And that is 84.1% of our general revenue. And along with this memo that I'll be running through, you can see the actual numbers are attached as well. About 70% of our general revenue comes from membership dues, which were about 99% collected by the end of Q1. Sponsorships and donations, you'll see our sponsors at our two major events. That's about 10% of our annual general revenue, and we've collected about 60.7% of that this year. The way that works, at the direction of our auditors, we are on a July 1 fiscal year. Most of our private sector sponsors are on a January 1st calendar year for their fiscal year. So our sponsorship is set up by the calendar year, but we need to recognize that differently in our fiscal year. So we split, when we get that money, we split it in half. So that's why we have a little over 60% collected. That is last year's, that is calendar year. Well, I guess the year we're in, that's calendar year 2025 revenue that we hang on to half of it. And then the same will happen next year. So we will send out sponsorship invoices in January, and then we'll see that other half catch up. Registration fees is about 13.5% of our general revenue. We are at 36.3% of that collected. And exhibit space as well, we are at 60.6% collected. Entirely, all of that is entirely from our annual convention. You will notice, and those who aren't new know that they approved this. We have $270,000 in unrestricted reserves budgeted in this year's budget. That's not because we need to dip into our reserves because we're strapped. It's actually the opposite. We have a policy where we need to keep our reserves between 20 and 50% of the previous year's budget. And so we need to spend down some of those reserves in this fiscal year in order to stay within that range. Our initial projections for using that $270,000 will put us at about our reserves next year at about 48%. And we'll be using that, I'll get into this in the expense section. We'll be using that for one-time projects like updating our publications. LAA, you'll see a section here that is our state-funded technical assistance. LAA is a portion of that. For those who aren't aware, the funding for LAA, the full LAA package was cut by $500,000 in last year's legislative, or the 2025 legislative session. That is our entire, of that 500,000, that is our entire budget for LAA, and a 10% cut for each of the AOGs. We had 2 years worth of reserves, restricted reserve funding that we are using to fund this current year. So that's kind of the reserve section. Unrestricted reserves that we need to drill down, and that's 270,000. And then the restricted reserve will be funded we'll be funding LAA only for this year. We're hopeful to restore that funding in the 2026 session.
Does that look likely now?
I will throw that to the legislative experts.
I think there's a good chance of it. Senator Owens has agreed to run the RFA on that one. All of our rural legislators are very much in favor of restoring it. That being said, it's the legislative session, so I would say likely, not definite. We brought it up with the Senate president before. He didn't raise any concerns with Senator Owens running the RFA, but he also did say, like, yes, definitely this will happen. So the league officers will be setting up a meeting for the league officers to meet with the Senate president, with the Speaker of the House in the upcoming weeks. And so it's one of the things that we'll want to bring up there. But as we get moving further along, it's certainly something we'll want to reach out to and really push. So again, likely, not definite.
Well, what was the reason it got cut?
I'm sure that's a big.
A misunderstanding about how the money was being used.
Okay.
I will say that. Very safe.
That was generous.
I'll give you a much better answer offline.
I just picked up that.
Oh, it's a very good question.
So we are in our third year of the LAA program, a state funded technical assistance program. But this is the first fiscal year in which we are really in a state funded technical assistance space. So we also have two other state items of state funded technical assistance. One from the Office of Data Privacy, $50,000 grant from them in order to promote the requirements for the new data privacy laws. And then we also have money coming in from the Department of Workforce Services that is for land use assistance and mapping. We received 100% from the Office of Data Privacy, and we're currently spending that. And we have received an initial payment of $189,000 from DWS in order to get that program up and running. We'll be working with I'm drawing a blank on the acronym. The mapping folks at the state, we will be subgranting ArcGIS. We will be subgranting to them, and they will be putting together maps, zoning maps, and pretty comprehensive maps for communities that don't have them. We have not gotten underway in any expenses in that program yet, and that's mostly due to the MOU we've set up with ArcGIS and just the timing of getting everything signed with DWS. But that will be up and running in Q2. Expenditures, we so far have spent 21.5% of the total budget. Personnel counts for about 42% of the budget, 42% of the budget, and we have spent 22% with 25% of the year gone by. Operating and program expenses is 13.5% of our budget, and for this period we have spent 16%. Events make up about 20% of our budget, and we have expended 37% in that category. And that is right on track considering the events we have in the year. Annual is a little more expensive an event, but we have 3 more events to go through, including Local Officials Day. Well, the 3 more would be Elected Officials Essentials that we're going to be doing in December training, Local Officials Day at the Legislature in January, and then our mid-year conference in St. George in April. For grants and special projects, we are funding a lot of that through reserves. It's about 6% of our budget. We're going to be updating our powers and duties publication, which we do every 2 years, along with Elected Officials Essentials training and the municipal election. And also Making Sense of Dollars, our finance book, which was last updated in 2007, I believe. So that will be a big update that we have the Gardner Institute at the U working on along with our staff.
Question on publications. Will the online directory ever come back?
That is a good question. We do not have plans for that, but that is something we can certainly look into. We had an app for a while that has since gone by the wayside, and we do have the potential through a group called Your Membership to have some sort of online directory available for members. We really just need to figure out the audience for it and how that's accessed, because a lot of the folks who want to use our directory are private sector folks trying to reach out to the various councils. But we're not sure, but that's something we can definitely look at.
Okay, follow up outside of this, Citizen Portal is pulling a bunch of all things directory. I can talk to you outside.
I mean, as long as Cameron and Justin and others are fine being my personal, do you have a number for? Okay, any other questions or updates, Nick, on the budget and do you want to hit anything on the check registry?
I'll briefly mention that. So I mentioned the state funded technical assistance. We don't need to go into that. At the end of Q1, we are $2,350,578 revenue over expense. And we would ask the board to approve the financial report and the check register. You'll see quarterly, we also include our check register that I have right here. If you have any questions on any specifics on this, we have the documentation filed away and we can pull any of that up for you. But that is all I have.
I have a revenue question, which probably is more of a membership question. How many members did not sign up again this year? How many are we missing?
Yeah, I'll take that, Nick. So we there are a couple of small towns who did not pay last year and who have told us well, I shouldn't say it that way. They did not pay last year, and we have not been able to track them down about this year yet. But we also were waiting for the election because we knew there was going to be turnover, and so we were going to make a run at the newly elected officials in those two particular small towns. There's another city that recently incorporated that chose not to join, and it's an interesting case study for us of trying to help newly incorporating communities. We did offer them some help, and then they ultimately chose not to join. We have two communities right now that are in the process of incorporating, and we've learned some lessons from that previous experience of like, we want to be helpful. We want them to see the value. We don't want them to feel like they get the value for free. So I think we're on a better track with these two newly incorporated communities for them to ultimately join. They don't become official communities until January 1. So it's a conversation into the next calendar year. And then there's one city that notified us a couple of weeks ago that they're not going to pay dues this year, and that's Syracuse City. So I've already been in touch with the city manager there, and I'm waiting for the election there as well, and then plan to sit down with the current mayor is the one who made the decision. Assuming he wins re-election, I plan to sit down with him again afterward. But I've already talked to Mayor Shepherd about that in Davis County, and we'll follow up with our other board members who come from that region to facilitate conversations with the mayor in particular.
Yeah, let's help where we can. And if they're between here and St. George, I can visit them at any
That's
time.
right, yeah. Well, and for those who are unaware of what he's referencing,
Willing to bike to Syracuse?
yeah, he biked.
I have liked the Syracuse, but not on my way to St. George.
What Mayor Burton is referencing is Clausen Town is one of the towns that I referenced that didn't pay dues. A couple of years ago, Mayor Burton graciously biked through Clausen on his way to St. George to try to meet with folks there, and it was difficult to track him down, right? And that's one of the challenges we have every year with our smallest members is that sometimes they don't pay dues because we just can't track down the clerk because the clerk's only there for a few hours a month. And oftentimes, once we track down the clerk says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we'll get this paid." So basically with our internal tracking, we have a lot more flexibility with our towns, trying to track down our towns. The bigger cities this is the first year in my time as director that we've had a city the size of Syracuse who elected not to. But again, I've had some conversations already with the city manager, and we'll be meeting with the mayor soon.
Some of those towns that go to a poll to their town halls, they'll say hours, 2 hours once a month or something like that. We just.
The third Tuesday from 1 to 3 or something.
Exactly, something like that. I find it interesting. I guess, they've got a life and the city is not their life.
Thanks for your efforts to try and help get those paid. Any other questions on the budget, Q1 or clerk registry? If not, then I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve it.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Second?
Second.
Thank you, all right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, budget is approved. Now we got everyone we expect from getting stuck in traffic. We're gonna jump back up to introductions and then the orientation of the packet and an announcement about files and photos for the website. So to make sure everyone knows who everyone else is, we're gonna do some quick introductions. So what I'm gonna ask for everybody is your name, your city, how long you've served, and then this is going to be a very important question. In Bountiful, we have a weekly email that goes out of Would You Rather? And it offers really interesting insights into our city staff and elected officials. And so we're going to do a holiday Would You Rather. Would you rather spend the next 60 days untangling Christmas lights or shoveling snow?
Oh.
I'm going to need to know. I'm going to be keeping score. I want to see who comes out different than what.
Wait, clarification, if spending the entire day doing it, or you just have to do it each day?
You have to do it each day for 3 hours.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I will start. Pete Bradshaw, Bountiful. I have served on city council for the last 7 years, and I would rather shovel snow.
There we go.
Yeah, someone from Park City, definitely.
I
Yes.
going up. Tana Tolley, Park City Council. This is my 4th year on council. I have 8 days to know if I'm gonna be reelected. Only 8 more days. I would much rather shovel snow, and I actually do that every day. It's not would you rather, it's are you doing it? Oh, I skipped you. I'm sorry.
We'll jump back on your.
She's excited about the snow.
She's so excited. Did you get snow? Is there dusting today?
It was like 30, so it was about.
Okay.
Lauren Palmer, Mayor in Harriman, just wrapping up my first term. I'll know in 8 days as well. And man,
Christmas lights or snow?
probably the snow.
It's a good workout.
It's a good workout. That's the only,
Yeah.
but yes.
Bill Wright, my given name's William Marr, but I go by Bill. Been the mayor of Payson City for, well, in January, 8 years. Looks like I've got another 4 years, no one ran against me, so.
It's a lovely place to be.
So, yeah, another 4 years. Now, clarify, I didn't really understand what, the.
Would you rather
Just a
spend
rhetorical
3 hours?
question?
Yes. Every day for the next 60 days, till we get to the holidays, untangling Christmas lights or shoveling snow?
I guess no.
Justin?
Justin Lee, Deputy Director here. Been at the league a little over 4 years now, coming up on the 5th session. Shovel snow, absolutely. I don't like untangling lights once a year, so.
Nick Jarvis, with the league. I've been with the league now a little over 15 years. And I'd have to say snow because I feel like I'm just gonna be jacked after that. 3 hours a day for 60 days, that's pretty hardcore.
Some days could be a skiff, some days could be a dumper. I don't know. That's not part of.
Is a snow thrower allowed?
I-
It has to be.
It's a shuffle.
Oh.
Molly.
Holly Wheeler, Deputy Director, also about 4 years. Honestly, when you asked that, my initial response was death. But I feel like I should be a little bit more resilient and I will say shovel snow.
Okay. Let's come back over on this side and then we'll come back around and then we'll go online after that.
I'm Cassidy. I'm the marketing and communications manager for the league. I've been with the league for about 2 years now. And then I think I will pick shovel snow because I am not a property owner and I don't have a lot of snow to shovel because I don't have a driveway.
Okay.
My name is Carson Eilers. I'm the policy director at the league. I've been here for 8 years. I think I would choose snow because my dog loves chasing the snow piles around. That would at least be entertaining.
Jared Tini, legal director for the league, and I've been with the league for about 2 years, almost at the same time as hired as with Cassidy. And
How long were you in Cassidy at West Jordan before you came in?
4 years. So I would actually rather untangle Christmas lights than shovel snow. You know that was coming. So you didn't say how long the Christmas lights were. Just like you didn't say how much snow. So I figured,
You have to
you
ponder.
know what? It's from here to here. I can untangle that. So
Where are the tingles 3 days?
It's like a horrible.
It's not a Christmas light.
It's exactly what it is.
Eric, how about you?
So let me get a scoop on this snow thing from that ad. I think you're getting wires on Christmas lights. So the professionals that do Christmas lights don't untangle them, they just cut them up and recycle them and they put new ones on the next year. That's part of why you pay so much, because lights cost less than labor. So that's not a big deal. And getting the scoop on the snow, I think, that's really not too bad, so. That's a hard one for me. I'll probably do the Christmas lights because, I'm just figuring out the answer to this question.
You also didn't tell us where you serve.
Oh, I'm serving as mayor in West Jordan. I started in 2020 and I served city council 4 years prior to that.
Mickey Wright, I'm the mayor of Torrey, and like the other mayor Wright, no one ran against me this year, so I'm finishing on my first term and got it. And I would definitely prefer shoveling snow because that means we've got water in Torrey.
Amen.
You guys have spent like 6 months just sleeping and feeling great about yourself.
I want you to go ahead and meet the candidate event on Saturday.
Okay.
It didn't matter.
First of all, let people stand up and shovel.
Mary Winch, council, Manti, and I'm in my 8th year on council. And I grew up in a ranching family that was always praying for either snow or water, so definitely snow. Exclamation mark.
I'm Jessica Egbert. I'm in my 2nd term on the Mapleton City Council. I'm not up this year, thank heavens, because in 8 days, I can't wait for this to be over. I've already asked if our EAP covers council members. It's rough in my neck of the woods, folks. And I would untangle the lights. First of all, my back already hurts thinking about the snow situation. I'll let Mary handle that, but I love solving problems, so it'd be fun. Plus, I mean, you just throw on the crappy Hallmark movies and that's a good time. Love the predictability. I'm already white, Dirk, so I don't have to worry about it.
A lot of those Hallmark movies are pretty fast pacing too.
You know what? Mapleton just bulldozed our pavilion where a lot of them were filmed too.
There's no predictability on what will happen now.
Oh, there's still total predictability. We're rebuilding one. It was a giant fire hazard. Whatever.
Okay, on that high note of Hallmark, Amy.
Amy Shumway, I'm on the Farmington City Council. I've been on for 6 years, planning commission before that. And I actually love shoveling snow. We've actually done it as a family for 8 years for our neighborhood but my boys are now leaving, so it's trickling down. So we're just doing it for a few widows in our neighborhood, but yeah. And sorry I was late. I never thought it would take me an hour and 20 minutes to get here from Farmington. So I was gonna be here early.
It's Centerville's fault. That's where the accident.
Yeah, there was lots of.
Okay, Cameron.
Cameron Dale, director of the league. I started the league in 2006 as an intern and I've spent basically my whole adult life here. And while I'm no Clark Griswold, I still would the Christmas lights.
Okay. All right, we'll go online. Nick, can you help us do some order?
Yes, I am just gonna say last names and about 4 at a time here, or 5 at a time. And so let's go Hinton, Shepherd, Bruno, Hedgeland, Silvestrini.
Hi, I'm Krista Hinton. I serve on Santa Clara. Is it me?
Yes.
Okay. I serve on Santa Clara City Council, just finishing my first term, the 4th year. And like Councilmember Tully, I'll know in 8 days if they'll have me again. So I would rather shovel snow, probably because I've never shoveled snow in my life and I don't know what that's like. So I'll give it a try.
Get good at it.
I'm Mark Shepard. I'm the mayor of Clearfield City. This is my 12th year as mayor, 6 on the city council before that. And we'll find out if 8 days, if they're going to have me one more time. And, I'm not doing either. I'm hiring somebody else. I'm sorry. I got better things to do with my time. I'm hiring.
Let me just get straight. You are neither untangling nor shoveling.
Not a chance. Not a chance. That's why I had kids.
I feel like the snow shoveling could be part of your workout routine.
No, not going to happen.
Who untangled your kids?
Okay, who is next?
Mayor Bruno.
Okay.
So I'm Barbara Bruno. I'm the mayor of Springdale. I'm in my first term, so just finishing up my 4th year. I am in a very ugly election cycle. My candidate has gone very dark, so hopefully I'll still be mayor in 8 days. I would definitely rather untangle Christmas lights. That's why I moved down to Springdale from Salt Lake City, Utah. I like to ski on snow, but I don't really want to shovel it anymore. I lived way at the top of Olympus Cove and I did lots of shoveling there. So Easy decision.
All right.
I'm, sorry, that's trying to fall off. Bailey Hedgeland, Mayor of Monticello. I'm in my first term. I served on City Council for 4 years before that. Also up for re-election, so next week cannot come soon enough for most of us. At this point, I would take Untangling Lights so I could catch up on a bunch of Netflix series that I never get a chance to watch. So.
I'm Jeff Silvestrine. I'm in my 9th and final year as mayor. I have 2 weeks left as of today. And I'll pick snow shoveling because I'm going to be doing that anyway. And and it puts water in the lake. So
Thank you.
Great.
And thank you for all of your great service. There might be a revolt on letting you go in 2 weeks.
All right, and last names again, we will go Goodrich, Ryan, Peterson, Walker.
I'm Audrey Goodrich. I am finishing my 2nd year on City Council, so I'm not up for election this year in Roosevelt, Utah. And I'm going to pick the Christmas lights every time.
All right.
I'm Meg Ryan. I have been with the league since before Cameron was an intern, but not as long as Roger. So we'll leave it at that. And I'm the land use planner, work on land use issues, and I would definitely pick the Christmas lights because that's what land use is a bunch of knots, but once you get them straightened out, it's pretty nice end.
Oh, great answer.
I can't top that. Lindsay Peterson, Mayor of North Logan. I'm just finishing up my last year of my first term and running unopposed for my 2nd term. So tons of sympathy for those of you who are kind of hanging on the edge right now. It's the worst. I think I'd shovel the snow for the workout.
Troy, we're going out of order on this agenda. We're back up to introductions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is weird. Way to switch it up.
You left. I just changed everything.
Yep. I hate Christmas, so shoveling snow.
On that note.
No, I actually like Christmas, but I hate Christmas lights, untangling them, that is. So I'm in the end of the 3rd term as mayor, and of course, running for re-election as well. And like Mayor Shepherd, we just don't know how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I think the sorting hat's gonna pick you.
I don't know. You never know.
All right, then we have Oldham, Merchant, Eilers, Godfrey. Carson White, he's right here. He's also online. Godfrey, Ramsey.
Right. Good morning, everyone. My name's Alexa Oldham. I'm a policy analyst with the league, and I've been here since January. I think I would have to go with the snow because shoveling snow in the valley means good skiing in the mountains. So snow all day.
By the time you get the snow shovel, you should have been up in the mountains.
Okay. My name is McKenna Marchant.
Now I gotta take that over there.
The what? Oh, okay. Yeah, do you?
I can't move. I can't move.
Do the back. Or-
There we go. Okay. Go ahead, McKenna.
My name is McKenna Marchant. I am the LA program manager. And I was hired in January to be the LA program manager and then went through the session. So hopefully we get the funding back. My choice would be to untangle Christmas lights. As a little kid, I love to tangle my jewelry and untangle it. So it's just my favorite thing is sorting.
Yes, it's insightful.
Okay, where did we have, Todd, if we've got you, go ahead and introduce.
Hi, I'm Todd Godfrey. I'm special legal counsel to the league. I've been associated with the league for Cameron 7 years, I think.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Logan. I've shoveled enough snow. I hate Christmas lights also, but I think I would choose that.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, and then we have Mayor Ramsey, and who said, I don't have to speak, but making sure you know I've been here. If you're welcome to join in, Mayor, if you are there.
Well, I am here, but you can't see me because the way my phone is plugged in, it won't turn the camera on. Yeah, here from the beginning. I like this. Would you rather? That's a fun idea. It's been fun to learn more about all of you. Don Ramsey, I've been mayor of South Jordan for the last 8 years, and we'll find out in a week if I will serve one more term. Hands down, snow shoveling for me. It's, I have 6 kids, and my life has always just been busy and full of all the things with that. And there were times when shoveling snow was the only quiet moment of my life. And it's also very therapeutic for me. I like the clean lines. It's kind of like vacuuming. I'm like, So shoveling snow, OG style, is still something I just really love.
All right.
And finally, we have Kim Crane. She also sent a message on here, which I will read in case she is unable to unmute, who is an ex officio member from the Utah Municipal Clerks Association, is the recorder in Springville City for 11 years, with the city for 25 years, and she would rather shovel snow.
Thank you. Okay, so I kept track. We are 10 for Christmas lights, 1 who didn't want to play, and 19 to shovel snow. In case you're wondering what Bountiful City's results were, it was 58 for Christmas lights and 42 for snow. Wow. There you go. Okay, orientation.
So Nick and I have had a chance to meet with almost all the new board members who are joining us officially today as new board members, and congratulations again for joining us for the next couple of years, and thank you in advance to everyone who's on the ballot this month or next month. And thank you for your willingness to stick your neck out in a very ugly and angry time, tumultuous time for sure. So thank you for your willingness to serve. If someone does not get reelected who serves on our board, we do have a process that we'll revisit in December for how to fill those spots, but hopefully that won't be the case. Nick, anything you want to just hit on the orientation packet?
Just that we've included the slides in this packet that we went over with the new board members. If anyone wants a little refresher there, just kind of a breakdown of who we are, that we're a governmental entity. We've included a lot of the stuff that is in the full orientation booklet that we sent along with your meeting materials for this meeting. I have 4 hard copies of it here if you would like. That includes all of our governing docs, including the Constitution, bylaws, financial policies, personnel policies, contact information for all the staff, the current board, our org chart, all the good administrative organizational stuff that I love, all in one little packet there. So if you have any questions, ask Cam or I, we can let you know. Welcome.
Just doesn't have contact information of all the members, right?
No.
We do have that.
We do.
Yeah. And actually, we get asked almost daily from different groups for our email list, and so we are very guarded with it.
Thank you. That means the emails I'm getting aren't from them.
That's right. Yep. Cassidy, do you want to do a quick update on the bios and photos for our website?
Send me your bios and photos for the website. If you can add your photo, that's pretty much it. Your photo will be cropped into a square. You don't have to send it to me as a square, but just keep that in mind as you pick your photos out. For those of you that may be changing your roles in elected office in a couple of days, we'll change that automatically. But if you want to add some more to your bio, feel free to just email it to me, and I should be making the updates within the next week.
Okay.
Great.
So now we've put those 2, and now we jump to engagement. Molly, back to you.
Thank you. I know we're running a little behind, so I will be quick. National League of Cities is November 19th through 22nd in Salt Lake. It's a great opportunity to connect with NLC. They are rarely in the Mountain West and even more rarely in Utah. So we are really looking forward to them being here. As a part of that, we will be organizing a state night on November 21st at the Museum of Illusion following that Friday afternoon general session. That general session will also include Tim Shriver and Governor Cox. We'll also be having a big city meeting, cities of the 1st and 2nd class, that will be an invite meeting during NLC as well. So we're really trying to make the most of having NLC be here and make it a good member experience. They have reduced rates for Utahns, either one day, cold conference, anything that you would like to do with that. One thing that we do ask for our board, you'll see that for state night, as well as our other major events listed below. As our organization's leadership, we really do ask that you prioritize attending our major events. That would be things like local officials day, mid-year, annual, and state night as you are able. Obviously, we know you come from very different geographies and have different obligations, but as you are able, if you can register and attend those events, it's very helpful for us as an organization. EOE, or Elected Officials Essentials, will be running this December and January. That's for anyone who is newly elected or anyone who is just looking for a primer on other skills to brush up on. We're looking forward to that. We have more details we can get you. We have a little great mock-up that Cassidy made. And yeah, other than that, our upcoming dates, we've chatted about them a bit, but if you can prioritize being there to the best of your ability and making sure you register for them as well, we would really appreciate it as staff.
When is the elected official?
So that will, so it's going to be a series. It starts on December 9th. And then that will be in person at the trust. Then there will be one online on the 16th. And those will be the same training. So you only need to attend one. That'll be like the full day, like intro local government 101. Following that, we will have trainings on, and I don't have all the dates memorized, I apologize, but we will have trainings on conflict competency, a deeper dive into land use with Meg, a deeper dive into budgets and finances with Carrie. We'll be doing how to run a small community for our LA communities. So we'll have that, and then we'll also have a legislative primer with Justin.
And some of those will be on Saturdays, some will be
Yeah.
webinars during the week. So the Saturday ones are Saturday, December 6th and Saturday, December 13th. And one December 6th is in person at the Local Governments Trust, and December 13th is online.
Oh yeah, I'm saying last year's dates, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. December 6th and 13th.
Okay.
Thank you.
So okay, if I attend those two.
Yep.
Yes, anyone is welcome to come to EOE. It's, we actually, I would say usually about 20% of the audience are repeat customers, which is great because it's a good, one, it's a good opportunity to refresh your skills and knowledge. And two, it's a great opportunity to mingle with the newly electeds because they will all be drinking from a fire hose. And I applaud Molly. Part of the reason we're breaking up EOE is there have been times in the past where EOE was basically an 8 to 4 day on a Saturday. And what we found as we followed up with folks was they recognized the value of it, but yeah, they were overwhelmed and it was too much at one time. So now we're breaking it up through the winter. So it's more work on our end, but we think it's a better product on the other end. And that comes with Molly overseeing the overhaul of powers and duties and the making sense of dollars and bringing additional materials that people can take away rather than just an 8-hour all day training event.
So I have a question on the National League. I signed up for 1 day.
Yeah.
Does it assign me automatically to the 1 day and can I pick my day?
You should be able to pick your day. So NLC has told us that they would prefer people use their 1 day on Friday. And I would say we would prefer that too, since we'll have the big city meeting and state night. However, if you're like, I can only make it Thursday or Saturday, you can use it any day, to my knowledge. We could follow up with the NLC staff. What they've told us is it could be any day, but we can confirm with them.
So my other question is, can I sign up for another 1 day, do another day, and do 2 1 days, because that costs less than buying the whole packet?
I have no idea. That is a great question.
Anyway, I thought I'd be in there on Friday.
Yeah. Yep, we can look at it.
Probably elude you then at night.
Hey. Mayor Shepherd, is there anything you wanted to raise as an NLC board member about NLC City Summit?
Yeah, please come,
Please
first of all.
hook up Mayor Burton with a second extra day.
Yeah, Mayor, just pay for all of it and just come to all of it. It's
Well, can I do 3 days then, buy 3 1 day tickets?
yeah, you just do 3 1 days and whatever you want to do. Whatever works for you, Dirk. We need you there. I mean, we really want a solid Utah representation. We typically for national meetings have got several of our cities that are there, especially out in DC. I mean, how many we have at dinner last time, Cam? Good 100 or so people.
DC 100 plus.
I mean, we need some attendance. I also need a couple of volunteers. I got to submit a couple of names. We need, for those of you who are members of NLC, we need a sergeant of arms at the annual business meeting. And so they've asked me to present a couple of names for sergeant of arms. That's persons responsible for, what did they tell me? Maintaining and upholding the official rules and procedures of the annual business meeting, and would sit at the dais in the meeting alongside the parliamentarian and the presiding officers.
Not a big volunteer for that. Do I get in for free?
Derek, I've seen West Jordan's budget. I don't know that this is a problem for you. But anyhow, if you'd be interested in helping us out there, I'll give them a couple of names and let them choose, or reach out to both of you. But be nice to have somebody represent. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It always is.
Mark, while you're on, for those that are new to the board, will you explain your dual role on our board and NLC's board?
Other than that, I serve on both boards. Yeah, I was elected to the board for the National League of Cities a few years ago. I'm still sitting on the board. I'm up for re-election this year. Hopefully that happens at our annual business meeting, and that they reappoint me to the board. And then I chair a couple of committees for NLC. I sit on the Military Communities Council, and then I chair America's Housing Comeback, which is the group that National League of Cities put together with the realtors, the home builders, the mortgage brokers, or mortgage bankers, the planners, and so forth. And we meet several times a year now to look at housing, and we're just getting ready to start kicking this off in December, I think 8th and 9th sorry if I was wrong, November 11th and 12th. That we'll kick this off in Houston at the Realtors Convention. We're going to meet down there on their territory and kind of talk housing down there. And then I chair the mayors and CEOs for U.S. Housing Investment as well, which is a national group. So
I think we appreciate that you take all that extra time beyond just serving with us to serve with them. And I'm certain that if you get Mayor Burton to be your sergeant at arms, that you'll be reelected to NLC. So I look forward to the two of you working that out. Molly, anything else on the engagement report?
That is everything for me. Thank you.
Can we just mention Local Officials Day?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Local Officials Day. Thank you. That's not from me. Apologies. Local Officials Day. So that will be on January 21st. That is a day mostly focused on youth councils. We bring them up to the Capitol, have them interact with their legislators. We put on a variety of programming for them. One thing we are considering doing this year with our youth councils is expanding our partnership with Dania Ramore at the U, who's been doing all the conflict competence coursework for us, to have her do some type of training for the students on how to navigate conflict amid, the Charlie Kirk assassination in the state, other things like that. Just kind of giving our young youth councils some tools to better navigate conflict and political discourse as they're kind of moving up and through the world. And Dania is very interested in that, so we're excited at exploring what that look like.
Okay, anything else on that section?
No, the last thing I'll mention in the engagement side is we're excited for this Dania piece. We wanted to just bring that up to the board to see if there's any thoughts one way or the other on it, but we're proceeding there. And then with the municipal election next week, I've set aside most of the following day to be making phone calls to reach out to newly elected mayors and council members. So if you get a call from me, it's often because I'm looking for a new phone number, because there are people who are running who I've never met. And so we're trying to track them down. Then in December, we as staff will attend as many of the different retirement events as possible. And then we dedicate significant amount of time the first week in January to try to attend as many inaugurations as possible around the state. So again, we'll ask for your help to identify when those different events are, so we can hit as many as possible. I believe a couple years ago we hit over 50 communities. So we'll try to hit as many as possible. A lot of them were scheduled at the same time, but we'll do our best to highlight those, to recognize the folks who are leaving, and then highlight those who are newly elected.
Who do you want to share that information?
We will follow up with the board after the election to gather that information, and we're trying to gather it through the Clerks Association too.
Okay,
Perfect.
We'll conclude that section then.
Great.
And we'll move on to our advocacy report. Cameron and Justin will let you click this one away and march us through all of these very diverse items.
Perfect. Good news is we haven't done homelessness. We've got amicus, revenue, particularly property tax, state housing plan, and water. So Jared, let's start with you. This, for those of you who are new board members, we spent a good amount of time on this last month. They said we're presenting it to you, gave you a month to look at it, chat with your city attorneys, and come back today. So Jared.
Okay. So occasionally we have requests from member cities that would like the league's participation in some way to support them in some sort of litigation. And that may look like submitting a brief that we write. That may look like just signing on to a brief that other public entities have signed on to. And so we have got all the documents that talk about each of these individual cases. But just to give you a kind of a brief rundown of what we're being asked to support. There are two cases running parallel in different district courts. And in both of them, they have the same legal issues. And that is the claim that because of negligent policing, that caused a wrongful death, and that the city is not, cannot call upon the Governmental Immunity Act because of certain cases that they think should be overturned that have been decided in the past. So what we're being asked by Salt Lake City is whether the league would be willing to sign on to the amicus brief that has already actually been filed in the Moab case by Kearns as well. Now Kearns, there were a lot of different entities that signed on to the Kearns brief. UAC did and many other entities. When we were approached to sign on to the Moab case, because of our litigation amicus policy, the timing of that, we weren't able to bring it to the board. It's required for us to bring it to the board for your approval one way or another, whether approval or denial one way or another on whether we support, in this case, Salt Lake City. And so with that, the staff recommendation is to move forward and support Salt Lake City by signing on to the Kearns already drafted one that has been filed in the Moab case to then be filed in November in the it's called the main case. So in Salt Lake City case. So all of the documents are online, and you should have received those last time. So that's kind of where we're at. One thing that I think is important to determine as a board is differentiating why this request is different and important and citywide. And there are different factors in our amicus policy that we look at, we discuss, and that's how we ended up at the recommendation that we did. But there will be member cities that do want the league support in the future, as has been in the past. And I think it's important to just know what those reasons are, why or why not in this case. So that's kind of a summary of.
You said citywide, you meant league-wide, right? Because it was just the city, it doesn't affect the league.
Correct. It would affect cities all across Utah in relation to wrongful death cases due to negligent policing. That's what it would affect.
I have a question. When are we gonna make that, when are we gonna take that vote?
Today.
Okay. Can I speak to it for a second?
We will recognize Mayor Walker.
Okay, so I'm an attorney in my side hustle. And I'm a plaintiff's attorney. I've been doing it for, 30 years now. I think that if this were to become the new standard, as a plaintiff's lawyer, it'd be fantastic because you could bring one of these cases damn near every time, you could try and make some case that, it sort of turns the police into the protectors of, the public at large. And it also raises the question to me is, police can only arrest you if they have probable cause, right? And so if we're going to make the police responsible for what happens after they don't arrest you, then they're going to start arresting you, and they're going to arrest you for reasons that aren't going to be valid. I just think it's as problematic as it can get. And although as a plaintiff's lawyer, I'd love to see it become the law because it'd be an easy way to go sue cities. As a mayor and as someone who, sits on that other side of it, I think we should join this amicus brief because I do think this could really be a problem. It could break us all financially very easily.
Any other thoughts, feedback, discussion?
In the previous one, we supported that, right?
I think there was like general support, but because of the timing, we did never make it to a formal position of support. I think there was broad concern, but it was moving too fast. Is that fair, Jared?
Yeah, it was the timing aspect of.
We do have a policy.
Has there been any before that?
We've signed on to several amicus briefs through the years.
Have we ever? said
You mean on
no?
this topic or on sign on
This
ever?
topic, yeah.
On this topic?
Not just briefs, general, but this specific.
No, this is the first one in
The
this.
place.
I mean, if you look at this, I mean, negligent policing is a whole weird concept, but we already have it. It's called 1983 under the United States Code. If they violate your civil rights, you can bring that claim. But negligent policing, I mean, that could be a lot of things.
I'm a retired police officer, and there's an awful lot of gray area in some of those cases for attorneys to be able to explore. And so I guess I don't fully understand what is the brief doing?
So the amicus brief is essentially supporting the underlying Salt Lake City's argument, saying that the Governmental Immunity Act does apply here, and therefore the city is immune to suit on the basis of wrongful death.
Basically, in that Moab case, it was quite a long time after the incident happened that the death occurred.
Yeah.
And really similar? Yeah. It's really hard to control some of those things, like you say, unless you have enough probable cause to arrest them. I remember watching the interaction and thinking, oh no, this is not going to end well. But I would fall on that side.
Jared, was it that denied in district court or something?
Both of them were, yes, both of them on the basis of governmental immunity were denied, and then it went up the chain. So it's on appeal.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we protect our cities from more bad litigation.
Is that a
I was gonna
motion?
say I think that's our role, so yes, I'll make a motion that we join.
We have a motion from Mayor Palmer. We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mary. Okay, so a motion and a second to join the amicus request. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Cameron, over to you and Justin to talk about revenue and property tax.
Great. Nick, will you pull up the first property tax memo?
The clunky?
Yep, the clunky one. Okay, what we have provided to you on the property tax piece in the packet is a summary of what the membership told us last week at LPC. There are 4 questions that we listed here for the board. Let me walk through what we need to accomplish today, because these are actually ongoing questions between now and the end of the legislative session. Question number 1 are the clunky items. We asked at LPC for folks to proactively share with us what they viewed as clunky items in the truth in taxation process. in addition to what we as league staff had already outlined. So in the table below, Nick, can you scan down to the table? You can see in the 4 categories, the timing and process, primary notice, secondary notice, public hearing. And what's underlined are the items that tripped up taxing entities this summer. What's italicized are the items that we've heard from legislators. I'll come back to that piece in a second, although it looks like the italics didn't make it
I
over.
was gonna say, I've not seen.
Yeah, the italics, now that I'm looking at the italics, didn't make it over, it's changed to a PDF. I'll just walk through what we've heard from legislators, because that actually is a Slido question we're gonna ask here in a moment. So the underlined is what tripped folks up. And then the other items are things that we've heard from our members at LPC last week. Now that question is still out there, and we will get more feedback, because our plan was to come back to LPC on November 17th. So 3 weeks from today, basically say, here's the whole list of everything clunky, and then let's prioritize them. Because at the end of the day, we don't want to use a whole lot of political capital on something that is a shoulder shrug in the clunky space. We'd rather use the political capital on something we all agree is a meaningful improvement to the process. So again, that question of what clunky items is most important to address, we're not answering that question today. We plan to try to answer that at LPC, but we want to make sure you had an update of what we've heard thus far. So our ask is take that back to your staffs, make sure that you basically ask around so that we can prioritize on November 17th. Here are the list of clunky items we want to try to address. We have had some legislators who've expressed a willingness to do that. Questions 2, 3, and 4 get to the Slido results. So Nick, will you scan down to the Slido results? Just start here. So this is what we asked at LPC last week when we asked them about moving the truth and taxation process up. You can see 59% were in the very or somewhat comfortable space. Now, this is logistically very complicated, if not impossible. But we do have several representatives who are interested in doing this. And we've had a couple of stakeholder meetings so far there. The second Slido question is about replacing truth and taxation with a system that caps property tax increases by 2 to 3% a year. And this is what we refer to in the meeting as the South Dakota approach. There are several other states who have done this or are looking at this approach. So you can see the results. We had 29% were in the very and somewhat comfortable space, which that number kind of surprised us. And then there were 58% that were in the somewhat or very concerned space. And then I'll just hit this third question. I see Roger's hands up, and then I've got Councilmember Egbert. The third Slido question was about the shift. And based on some of the feedback we got after the meeting, I think there was a little confusion on this question. What we were trying to ask here is get into what a primary residential property pays in property tax versus a non-primary residential unit pays in property tax. So a commercial or an industrial use. The commercial use is taxed at 100% value. Residential is taxed at 55% value. And there's discussion at the Capitol about increasing that exemption percentage. So you would be paying less on your taxable value of a residential property, but acknowledging that the city property tax would generally be held harmless, which means if you're a city that's exclusively a residential community and you have one commercial property, that commercial property would see an increase in their property taxes while everybody else's would go down. So those survey results came back, as you can see, 25% in the comfortable space, 49% in the somewhat or very concerned space with a lot uncertain. So we wanted to share this with you so that you had a sense of what our members are saying in the first blush space. Before we get to the next Slido question that we'll discuss, Councilmember Bradshaw, all right, Roger, and then Councilmember Egbert.
Go for it, Raj.
First of all, my apologies for being late. I had a morning that everything went wrong, but I got here for the important part. I just wanted to emphasize when we talk about the clunky items, and it's in the cover memo, we have 2 systems of notification on truth and taxation. We have one that really has not changed at all in 40 years. It works really, really well. And that is the notice that goes out on July 15th that has all of the information, on the values and on the rates that have been adopted on hearing locations. I don't think that notice can ever be changed, to be perfectly honest, and serve the role that it served for 4 years. That is not, when we're talking about clunky, that's not that notification system. It's the secondary notification system, which is it was the old newspaper ad. It never worked. And it never worked because you were always talking about a hypothetical piece of property. You were never talking about your property, which was sent out to the individual taxpayers over. And we changed that over and over. Well, with the demise really of the newspaper ad, the new system, the notification that you do online that goes into the state website and all the others, is really another version of that secondary system. I just wanted you to emphasize we really have two of these systems. One of them has worked really well. One of them has never worked well. And so therein lies sort of the problem. And then the second part of that is the hearing restrictions on what you can put on hearings is a relatively recent phenomenon that came out of South Jordan about 3 or 4 years ago. So I just wanted to lay that as background because we tend to lump them all together. Part of the system of truth and taxation notifications works really well. Part of it hasn't. And most of the clunky stuff's in the second system.
Perfect. Thanks, Raj. Councilmember Egbert.
Yeah, I'm trying to dig in and look for the meaning behind this, and you've probably analyzed this more than what we see, but do we have any sense of how many unique cities and towns are reflected in this data, and of those, the size breakdown, particularly the Prop 13 one? The first one about moving the dates is less critical to me, but I'm really interested in the other two questions. Do we know what this data means in terms of respondents?
Yeah, Carson's probably frantically pulling on the spreadsheet because he has broken it down by city classification and some of those other points.
Thank you.
So as Carson's pulling that up, what we want to accomplish today is a follow-up question around the various policy ideas that are out there. And again, our apologies, for some reason when it switched to a PDF, the italics disappeared. But we're basically going to show you a question here that lists the different ideas we've heard from legislators over the last few weeks. So a couple of them we've already slid out the members. This will be broader than that. And we're not trying to make a decision today. We're trying to just get a first blush of the sandbox today. Because there's going to be a lot of focus on this issue over the next few weeks. Carson, is there anything you're ready to share yet on the deeper dive?
It's just loading, so give me.
You want to put the slide so we can at least get our.
Yep. Nick, can you?
Ready?
He's got Slido as well.
Oh, the one person.
Person's got to do everything. The one thing, if I can, is to add on, in the last rev and tax meeting during interim, they spent basically the entire meeting talking about property tax, what are different things they could do to property tax. And in my assessment, it was kind of a 2-hour lead up to them opening a bill file, which they planned on opening the whole time anyway. It was all leading up to it. And so there is next interim in November is the final interim. And we do expect to see some draft language come back that will give us a better idea of what the legislature is doing as far, or at least what their plans are in some of these areas. So they've thrown some things out there, but next month we will have a more solid idea of what their bill language actually looks like. So this is part of that's trying to get some parameters around that because we won't see you again before we hit that interim.
But the funny thing about it, the discussion never really centered on truth and taxation. They brought out the audit. The audit basically said truth and taxation is generally working well, cited a few issues, and was one of the first items that criticized the legislature for being a bigger component for tax increases over the last 3 years, which I thought was appropriate. The focus really centered on the residential exemption and the shift and what could be done. And a large part of that meeting was the issue of disclosure from commercial properties.
I have a question on one of our Slido.
So yeah, Carson, can you pull up the question so people can see it?
So it won't show.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, I've got 'em.
So yeah, people will be able to see the options if they pull up the Slido.
Great.
But if you want to just talk through them, Cam.
Yeah, let's do that. So you should all be able to pull up on your phones the Slido question. And we're asking you to rank based on most concerning being a 1, least concerning being a 9. So these nine concepts have all come up in our conversations with legislators. So, again, we're not looking to make a decision.
I was picking the ones that like.
I would do it the other way.
Okay, so worst
Worst at
is
the
at the
top.
top. Yes, most concerning at the top, least concerning at the bottom. Correct, Carson? Most concerning at the top, least concerning at the bottom. So there are 9 things. Again, all of these have come up in conversations with legislators. So I'm going to I'll quickly explain them, and then if there are questions, please ask them. Again, today's really like the first blush to help us see where the sandbox would be. So 1 is just status quo and just improve the clunky parts of the process, but no substantive changes to truth and taxation outcomes. The second, there's a bill file open for this already. Any property tax increase requires voter approval. So that's number 2. You never get one, yeah. Number 3 is that annual cap. That's what we surveyed LPC about last week, but we just plugged in the number 2% because that's more aligned with historic CPI. South Dakota had 3%, which is why at LPC we did 2 to 3%, but just the cap.
Utah had one before truth and taxation, just so you'll know.
True, yeah. So we're getting into options here that really do fundamentally change the property tax system, right? That's why we emphasize clunky is not a substantive change. It's improving process. 4th is having the cap, but then having an additional difficult process to exceed the cap. And that in some of the hallway conversations has been, do you make a tougher truth and taxation process if you exceed the cap? Number 5 is you have different property tax process rules for cities compared to other entities. That's been floated, and I had a somewhat flippant comment about it over the summer that I referenced at LPC, but there's a lot of angst focused primarily at school districts, though a couple of counties have joined that club in recent days of legislative angst. Then the next item is this is again brainstorm from some legislators like, well, what if we put a limit on the number of taxing entities that can raise property tax in a given year? Not sure logistically how that would work, but it's an idea that's been tossed out. Then number 7, change the primary residential exemption to focus on ownership instead of the land use. This is something we actually raised in the Commission on Housing Affordability a couple of years ago. It would require constitutional change. But there may be an appetite to do that now, whereas a couple of years ago, there was not an appetite to do it. And so the idea there is the residential owner who lives in the property gets the primary residential exemption. But if I own a second home that someone is living in, I don't get it for the second home, whereas right now I do. Then the second to last one is what we surveyed LPC about, shifting the residential exemption or changing the residential exemption, which would result in a shift to commercial and non-primary use in that tax burden. And then the last one is the logistically challenging one, but that has some interest around changing our calendar. And in defense of the county process right now, they go through truth and taxation before they approve their budget in December. And that's because they have all the data in place now. Whereas for us and school districts on the fiscal year, we have to wait to get the data before you can start the truth and taxation process. And that's what pushes us past June 30th and into July and August. So it's logistically challenging on the time frame, but there's appetite to at least look at that. So those are the different policy ideas out there right now that we expect significant discussion on over the next few weeks. And we wanted your first blush thoughts of what was concerning and what was less concerning. So with that, Councilor Bradshaw, open to questions from the group of any of these items as we're asking folks to rank.
So the question I wanted to ask on one of the options was the increased residential exemption from 45 to a higher percentage with the shift to commercial. So I recognize that with the certified rate process, it would likely be revenue neutral, but it could be dramatically impactful to certain communities with very limited commercial. Have we been able to get any data on how dramatic that shift would be for cities?
It is on our research list. So we had, part of what we wanted to do today was flesh out from the board if there are other questions like that one. The board members would like us to research, to be able to bring back for future consideration. So I agree. I think that's a
Where I put that on the list, I think changes depending on if it's, if you've got a handful of commercial properties and then it drives them out of your.
But let me, not to devil's advocate a little bit, we talked about that. That's still, those commercial are a small portion of the total value of that.
Yeah.
So if you have, say you have 200 residences and you've got a gas station, right?
Yeah.
I mean, their value of the whole scheme is really small, right?
Yeah.
So even if you do the residential, I don't think it's gonna impact that commercial that much, because it's still taking the whole, I'm just trying to think through it. I'm just trying to think through, because that's still a regular,
Yeah, I
a
mean,
small
that's-
portion of the
I just-
whole taxable value of the city.
The dynamic on the residential exemption is fascinating because I don't think anybody wants it, but the legislators want to give something to constituents. And this is a way of doing something. Because frankly, if you're in a county or a district that is virtually all residential property, you have nobody to shift it to but back to yourselves. And so on the other hand, if you have some larger commercial entities, you can shift it to them. It really is, I'm not gonna say it's not a policy, but when you've got already half the value out, I don't know what 5% more does. And so in some ways, it's a way of saying, well, we did something to help this group. But in terms of the actual impact, it's gonna depend on the property composition of where you live.
Yeah, good questions and good points. That's why it's on our research list, is to dig a little deeper there. Other
Do you
questions?
think you'll have a huge pushback from commercial though, if you are in?
Very much
I mean,
so.
that's what I think
Yeah,
that
very
one for
much
me
so.
is like, that's gonna get so much more traction with the commercial. And as
They're
someone
already
who owns
resident.
commercial and then as also a resident, I'm like, that goes down to the resident, or that's gonna go out to, now your pizza is. Yeah. So it just trickles down. Somebody has to pay for it. You know,
Exactly.
it becomes your residence or your forest, whatever.
But didn't that flip though, basically about 4 years ago? Because it was always, commercial was always the higher payer.
Mhm.
That's what we've seen in Harriman. The residential now is paying more because the residential is suddenly more valuable than a commercial space. So that automatically flipped, which is why our residents, I think, are.
Yeah, that's what,
Struggling.
well, that's why you have legislators looking at it, is the audit did show in particularly in higher growth areas that shift has happened.
So the businesses used to be 4 or 5 years ago, they were always paying the higher rent. They just got a discount 4 or 5 years ago, honestly. And now it's kind of just trying to bring that balance back a little bit.
Bear in mind also, one other factor is that there is no monetary cap on the exemption. When this was put in place, there was not a home in Utah that sold for over $1 million that we were aware of when this was done. Now, if you've got $1 million home, you've got almost half the value you don't pay taxes on.
Governor Peterson.
Oh, Mayor Peterson, sorry, just saw your hand up. Lindsay Peterson, can you hear us? Maybe her hand is up for some others.
No, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I just had a general comment that I think this bill originally came from us and up in Cache Valley. And I would just say to comment on the original intention of this bill, which was to improve the transparency of cities and to stick with that rather than delving into changing the entire structure of taxation or approval of those increases.
Well, and thanks, Mayor. Senator Wilson's bill a couple years ago was focused on process and procedure, not about changing the whole system. And so as we've talked to him, he's acknowledged there's some clunky things he's willing to look at. He hasn't committed to say, yes, I will run a bill on that piece, but he's willing to look at it, which is why we're trying to gather this info to take back to him. There are other legislators beyond Senator Wilson that want to be more aggressive at making the wholesale changes, particularly in the House of Representatives. And so that's where right now it's hard to say for sure where this all ends up, but we're trying to just get a first blush thought from folks of where we're at. We have two other property tax Slido questions.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, if everyone can make your selections, so knowing that this is just the first step in what will be a topic we talk about forever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then let's move on to Slido 2.
Yeah, just add the one quick thing on that. In the committee, when they opened the bill file, there was no kind of consensus out of the committee
No.
members about what to do either. When they asked to raise a hand on some options, it was very weak on anything. So we've heard from House members, but we haven't heard really a definitive direction from either body yet.
Yeah, I'd say you, since I was in there too, a little more reserved from the Senate side,
Definitely,
some firm passion from a handful of House members, at least.
but not all of
At
them.
least one House member had some reserve and questions.
In fact, two senators said they'd vote to open the bill, but they'd vote against it.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, so
Slido
this,
2.
yeah, we have two additional Slido questions here, Carson. We go to the next one. So this is actually what the Georgia League just did. They cut a deal where, because of the pressure around property tax, that they agreed to some caps and restrictions on local government property tax authority in exchange for a city sales tax increase. Now, this has not been discussed in Utah yet. But we thought it would be helpful again, just to get a first blush, because the Georgia League director, and just this morning, I got emails from league directors in 3 different states saying, hey, here's what's coming at us in property tax. Here's what's coming at us in property tax. So we're trying to see what's going on in other states. And so this is, again, we're not asking you to make a decision like, yes, we'll do this. Is it worth, because first blush thoughts of, would it be worth even having that conversation of sacrificing something in property tax in exchange for revenue?
Is this so we can determine our own sales tax rate, or the state just increases the cap you can go up to?
So what we're,
Tax, right?
based on what they did in Georgia, they basically gave Georgia, using our 1% as an option, they gave Georgia the ability to go from 1% up to a higher level, but it was city controlled money.
The big challenge we'll have here is splitting off cities, counties from school districts, from special districts.
Well, that's the next question, right, Carson?
The next.
Or, never mind, it was in the other one about this. So what Roger's pointing out here is what I referenced when I was outlining this all, is we are the least disliked taxing entity at the Capitol. Right now.
Yeah.
I didn't
This
say
week.
it was the least disliked of the other taxing entities. And I actually asked this question of other state leagues a few weeks ago in a meeting. Whereas how many of you have been in a situation where your legislatures have tried to carve off and say they're going after school districts, but leaving the cities harmless? And then how much political capital do you spend on behalf of all taxing entities? And the response was all over the board. So I don't know if we'll get to that point here, but it was an interesting response. So again, this question is based on that Georgia experience. And then Carson, the last question, this gets to, this is another idea that has come up in the idea of funding state infrastructure. This will pivot to the housing conversation here in a moment. The state really likes tax increment financing. The state does not impose a property tax. So it's hard for the state to do tax increment financing on property tax because it's using the property tax revenue from other entities. So there have been some conversations saying, well, what if the state infrastructure bank paid for infrastructure costs of new growth, but then local governments repaid it through tax increment? So in other words, the state gives you the upfront cost for the water tank. Then I'll use West Jordan because I'm familiar with your water tank challenge. Then as you get growth in property tax serviced by the water tank, you pledge some of that tax increment to the state. So they give you the upfront cost, but then you're paying it back through your tax increment. Some of that happens now anyway. So this would be extending that financing mechanism to the state infrastructure bank. But again, it's all in this property tax space, and I have a meeting on this very topic later this week. So there are a lot of moving pieces in property tax. So again, today was really just checking in to get first blush thoughts from the board. So we knew if something really made everyone uncomfortable, we want to know that before these conversations get going in earnest, and then we'll have LPC again in 3 weeks where we can do some follow-up.
This does it really solve a problem? I mean, are you shifting money from one place to the other?
Yeah, the argument from the state is they can fund it, they want to know how they're gonna get paid back for the project. And if they can get the project built now, rather than waiting for Payson City or West Jordan.
Quicker. So
Yeah.
we can move faster.
Yeah, waiting 3 years for you to save. up
And then
the
we can
impact
get
fees.
the impact.
Yeah, that's why the word up there was partial, as we paid in part through property tax increment, because, yeah, it would be a package deal. But this has never been contemplated in state infrastructure bank before, so that's why we wanted to have a first blush thought on it.
Actually, I was talking about the one with the sales tax addition.
Oh, the question before, yeah. Well, and even, yeah, that it would be a shift, so this, Councilmember totally made the point too. This is a very strange political dynamic that we have legislators agreeing with us that we need more infrastructure dollars. At the same time, looking for ways to cut property taxes, sales taxes, gas taxes and the like. So,
But to cut property tax and increase sales tax, that pits cities against cities for fighting over businesses.
potentially, yeah, potentially. And you have some places in the state where the sales tax is much higher because of tourism taxes and other things. And yeah, there's,
Yeah. I'll give you a perspective. Park City has never raised property taxes as a municipality, ever. Yet if you add sales tax, we'll be the one that's hit probably the highest. So, I mean, it trickles down into the state, but we can't find in any history that we've ever raised property taxes as a municipality, so. I know that's like, whoa, but it's because we did the second home second home property tax increase where they pay double 30 years ago. So when you have 70% of your homes that are second homes, it helps cover the rest. So, but the sales tax, I mean, like our restaurant tax at my restaurant is at 10.50 right now. It's really hard to keep adding more and more sales tax to a restaurant.
That's Tori. I mean, I have the question of, is there data, particularly for the resort communities? Because we use sales tax. That's where we get our revenue and essentially ignore property tax. And everybody tells me I'm crazy, but I can't afford to raise property taxes on people that are living Social Security check to Social Security check.
You only get a certain percentage of that.
yeah. So, well,
Like
and
12%.
these are excellent points that we'll add kind of the research piece of it. And the good news is we spent so much time on TRT last year that a lot of this sort of research we did last year about the sales tax burden. And again, we mainly wanted a first blush piece because Georgia was really proud of how they navigated it. Does that work for us? Don't know. That's why we wanted first blush thoughts as we get into November. I'm going to pivot to the housing plan here because we've got 10 more minutes. I'm going to ask people to give us probably 15. I think we can get through the rest of it in 15 here. But this is super helpful on property tax. We will review those results from today's meeting and share it with the officers because we will build out our plan for LPC. We may put together a property tax work group. We've been waiting to see where the pieces shake out first. And we want to get past the municipal election. So stay tuned on that. On the housing piece, we spent a lot of time over the last few months gathering feedback about the housing plan. Nick, will you just scan down to the memo? I want to thank Alexa. She was primarily going through all of the feedback. And what you see in this memo is what we've heard from the membership. And we need to submit our official submission to the governor's office in early November. The memo outlines the overarching themes, and we've received, dozens of emails and texts and, hundreds of conversations. And so we've tried to narrow it down to what's in this memo. The overarching themes are bolded. So collaboration, flexibility, one size fits all, infrastructure. The good news is there was not a single overarching theme that surprised us. These are all the overarching themes that we've been raising for the last couple of years in this space, and they're consistent with the board principles anyway. When you get to the next page of the memo, so Nick, Section 2, feedback on the outcome metrics. We got some really good feedback of potential tweaks to the metrics. And then the third section is we'd ask for feedback on individual tactics. And so we've basically given you a progress report of what we've already done to engage on tactics, and then what additional comments we've received. So really the question for the board at this point, because the board won't meet again before we submit our official feedback to the governor's office, is there anything else we're missing that we need to include in the state housing plan? We still have our housing advisory group meeting later this week and probably one more time before we submit. But you as a board, is there anything else we're missing that you didn't see in this memo that you wanted to emphasize?
I don't see a whole bunch of Sunday on here.
It wasn't the Slido results. Yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah.
I did see it.
It did show up there.
But is there anything we're missing either on individual tactics or the overarching themes?
What's your drop dead date if anyone has any feedback? Halloween?
Probably not Halloween. I think, Alexa, do you recall? I know they need all the feedback in November, but I don't recall them giving us a specific date. It was just before the Thanksgiving week, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. They said they were collecting feedback through November.
So we still have time. We'll still be gathering intel through the advisory group and other things, but just as a board, we wanted to give the board a chance to say, I saw this tactic and I haven't seen any league action on it or any comments. Please make sure to prioritize this tactic or anything else. Okay, not hearing anything. This will be the framework for how we submit comments, but again, we'll still be working on it over the next couple of weeks. So thank you for that. We also include in the packet the MHP 2.0 handout from LPC last week. After LPC, we shared a copy of this handout with Representative Cal Roberts. We've also shared it with a few other folks like Steve Waldrop and Laura Hansen. We've also shared at the bottom of this document the MHP 2.0 pass. These are Slido results from last Monday, because it's still a tricky question of how does MHP 2.0 align with 1.0? And you can see even in our survey responses, this surprised us a little bit as staff, that folks initially preferred a 2-track option, 1.0 and 2.0, rather than either phasing out 1.0 or entirely replacing 1.0. That surprised us a little bit as staff. We've since followed up with some of the people who are the most vocal here, and it's been helpful insight from them about why they felt this way. We met with DWS staff last week, who's responsible for administering 1.0. They were very concerned about a 2-track system. They really liked the 2.0 concepts. They were concerned about confusing people with basically a 2-track system. So this is something we'll continue to flesh out over the next month, but just wanted you to see the Slido results because again, they surprised us a little bit. Any thoughts from anybody about 1.0, 2.0, where we're at as of now? Okay, then the last thing in the housing space.
Well, let's say, I have some concerns of replacing 1.0 with 2.0.
Okay.
I think the spirit of which we started the discussion was the things you could do for extra credit to draw down extra things. And that the city's engaged in that collaborative discussion with that in mind, and to take away 1.0 and replace it with 2.0, which is, higher bar, more money, more progress and action that has to be shown versus aspirational updates of general plans and things like that. General plans are a hurdle in and of themselves, then acting on them. I mean, so if we were to take the 1.0 rug out from under, I think we'd have a lot of cities that would then realize that and be very concerned that it's going to be difficult to move communities. Some communities will be very difficult to move them in these ways.
Well, that's excellent feedback, and it's consistent with the follow-up questions that we had with folks as we were trying to understand the slider results. And so for those of you who are new at the board, like this is why the slider results are so valuable, is it helps us get that broad sentiment, and then we can follow up in a more targeted way. And so well stated. The last piece in the housing space is around internal ADUs. Back in the June board meeting in Draper, you expressed a willingness to look at paths forward on detached ADUs. We presented our proposal through our advisory committee and through LPC. We have now heard back from the Property Rights Coalition, and you'll see at the end of this memo in section 2, they've asked us these additional follow-up questions ranging from infrastructure to minimum lot size, location within the lot, to parking. There are certain things here we've already surveyed, and we know that our members have heartburn about. There are other things that we've surveyed where the members have had less heartburn about. So again, this is really more just checking in with you. We plan to do a little deeper dive with our advisory subgroup later this week. You can see that in that section 3, Nick, if you go all the way down to the section 3 in the memo, we have asked prior to the PRC response for feedback from the advisory group on DADUs when we were building out the proposal. So the most important by far was infrastructure capacity. The least important was the design standards piece from that particular group. Nick, go back up. So right there. Yep, that spot right there. And then, we've already asked those questions in this space before. We haven't asked about a couple of the other pieces. So some of you serve on that advisory group. So we'll talk about this in more detail on Wednesday. But again, wanted to give you as a board an update on the dialogue back and forth. This is one of the prioritized items in the housing plan. And we've had multiple legislators who are friends of local government who have told us, and I'm not going to use names publicly, but they basically said, like, we've got your back on a lot of the bad ideas, but we really want you guys to get to yes on detached ADUs. And so that's just helpful for folks to know, and wanted to just give an opportunity for the board to weigh in here, knowing we'll do a deeper dive on Wednesday with our advisory group.
I find that interesting. I would have thought of the flip of that on the importance. Because at least in our city, the areas where the external ADUs are going in are places where the kids have grown up and there's less people living there. So infrastructure is really less of an issue.
Yeah.
But the big deal is really parking. Everyone complains about, we don't want them parking on the street. They want a place for them to park. And that's what I'm hearing from our residents.
No, good point. Other thoughts like that? Again, this is why we're sharing with you like what we're hearing to give you an opportunity to add additional context.
I
see a head nod
have
from
a
Palmer. Yeah.
concern on, so 9 may not require conditional use permit,
Mhm.
but then on 12A, you may consider lot coverage of a detached accessory dwelling unit and the primary dwelling. So how much land they're taking up of the total lot.
Right.
In Bountiful, we, if you want to exceed a certain percentage of the lot being structures,
Mhm.
then you can avail yourself of a conditional use permit. If you're underneath that percentage, then you can just follow the ordinance and do a detached ADU. And so I view those as somewhat, if we'll end up in a problem, I think, if we say, look, maybe you do some of these mays, but you do them through a conditional use. But if we've said there's no place for a conditional use permit, then how are you going to ever get to the items in 12?
Okay.
I would also add that based on the excellent training we received from the league, we got rid of all of our conditional use.
Yeah, a lot of communities have gone away from it. And when we surveyed, well, there wasn't a survey, it'll be a slide up, but when Carson did the deep dive with Alexa on detached ADU ordinances that cities currently have, there were a handful in the Bountiful category that use conditional uses, most do not. But I think this tension point is a good one to think through here as we're.
Yeah,
'cause
how do you
we're getting-
allow a may if it's not through some additional process?
Yeah. Great. Any other initial thoughts on or not initial, because we talked about it a lot, but any other follow-up thoughts on the detached ADU space?
I would love to hear more feedback and firm thoughts on our municipal legislative friends of what does it mean to really have our back on what if we get there on detached ADUs? Because I don't know, I don't personally necessarily have tons of heartburn to figuring out detached ADUs, but the goalposts move for us every year and they move dramatically. They don't just, they're not just like moving by inches, they're moving dramatically.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
I'd really love for them to articulate it and then help us hold some lines.
So
I actually feel
hold
pretty,
lines this year, but hold lines
yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
I actually feel pretty good about some of these conversations. I hesitate to say I'm in a public setting, but I do feel like there's more acknowledgement at the Capitol now than there's been in a long time of how much cities have been doing in this space with what we can control and how much work the legislature has required of cities as of late, and then what's outside of our control. So I think and the infrastructure shortcomings, like there's a greater acknowledgement now than there has been in several years there. I think the point on the goalpost is a very fair point, and I think that'll be part of conversations as officers as we have our meetings with leadership in the weeks to come. Is like, again, here's what we're willing to do in good faith, but good faith goes both ways.
Okay, I'll practice saying that in a pointed but nice way.
Do we have any sense of our legislative friends' feedback on the PRC feedback, what they say are too far, like, because there's certainly some of these that I'm like, oh no, that was the second concern from Link members was the location on lot, and it's very clear in here that it's like city can't do anything. So I'm just curious, do we know are we aligned on what is bad?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we got this official feedback from the PRC last week. So we had shared this document with them over a month ago, and it just took a while to connect dots. So I don't have an answer to that question yet. And to the credit of the PRC, they on MHP 2.0, they've been extremely reasonable. And even on ADUs, you'll notice like their feedback is like, hey, we'd like to talk about these things. And I think they recognize the same thing we recognize. There's a lot of legislators who feel like, we've asked a lot of cities as of late. And so they've been quite collaborative.
Well, many of these are, I don't have concerns with, but there are a few that are little sticklers.
Yeah, and that's what we'll do the deeper dive on Wednesday with our folks too, is understand which ones are most important. So it's almost 7:35. I asked for 5 more minutes. I'm going to pivot to Justin on the water piece, and then the executive director report is.
We're going to talk about active listening.
Let's skip that one for now.
Okay.
Just for time, because there's nothing, that was just a progress report. Is that right, Carson?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'll do these in like 30 seconds. In opposite order, water exactions audit, we brought this up at LPC. Jared and Carson and I are sitting down with legislative auditors this afternoon to talk through the audit. We have a protected copy of it, so we can't present it to you. We can't really tell you about what's in it the way the legislative audits go. But we
whisper.
Not even if we whisper, it's weird that way. But we are meeting with them this afternoon to push back on some of their logic. But I will say the recommendations are not things that we're particularly concerned about. It is not going to be a very damning audit or the audit will not make recommendations if it continues down its current trend that will be wildly concerning for us. So that's a good thing on the waterfront. We were concerned about where that could go, and it, from the recommendation perspective, at least from the audit, it shouldn't cause us any massive heartburn. Maybe minor heartburn, but not massive. On the Water Infrastructure Fund, can you scroll down a little bit, Nick, to the kind of timeline? Yeah, this one right here. So Water Infrastructure Fund, this is kind of the right now a nice confluence between infrastructure, taxes, fees, and growth. They're putting into place what's called the Water Infrastructure Funds, part of the state water plan, but this is looking to find ways to fund water infrastructure projects across the state, which generally is a good thing. The law has been in effect now for about a year, but I just want to point out here in 2025, on October 31st, a fee study is going to be completed. Now, Zions Bank is the one who has done the study on this one. Several of us have seen versions of that study that are out there. In November, they will be presenting to the Natural Resources Committee what their recommendations are, at least from the study, as far as whether we get fees to pay for this, whether we use taxes to pay for the water infrastructure fund, or a mix. And spoiler, pretty sure they're going to go with a mix. So really is putting this out there as a flag. We will talk about it more at LPC in November, as it'll be a couple days before interim, and we see more what they're going to do. But there will almost certainly be some additional taxes and fee discussions, not just on property taxes, but around water. And that will go towards funding this water infrastructure fund. The WIF is what they're calling it. And so just want to put that on your radar. If it's not on there, yeah, it's called the WIF. If it's not already on your radar, just want to make sure that it is.
It's already there.
Because this is going to potentially be, particularly if you're a water provider, significant changes to what water looks like in the state as far as funding and infrastructure and getting funding for projects. We'll delve more into that later, but just want to make sure that you're aware of it. We've talked about it a few times in the past, but in November that will be presented, and we're gonna have some in-depth, serious discussions about what that looks like.
They just didn't want to go with the flow, did they?
No, they did not.
All right, I think you're over your quota on funds today. Okay, we've made it through all of those items, and you have 10 seconds to say whatever you're expecting.
We've not made any sort of public statements about the federal government shutdown. We've received some media requests about that. We've also received some media requests about county property tax increases. We've not responded to those either. If the board would like us to say something federal government shutdown wise, we can. NLC has been very active and engaged, and we've deferred to them. So that was mainly it. We just wanted to check to see if there was a different direction on federal government shutdown.
I think let the NLTs to do the federal government that's appropriate.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I mean, the only smug thing we can say is our budget's balanced.
Let's just say that.
Okay, then we mentioned we'll be following up with you about election day and following up with folks. We'll follow up with you about the slider results from today, but this has been really helpful for us to build the sandbox. And again, thank you to everybody who's going to run for re-election this year. And we hope to see all of you in November at LPC and at state night.
Anyone want to give me a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody.